Hello, welcome to 8.9 News. I'm Finlo Costain. Today's headlines. A new study shows that small-scale agriculture is a key driver in global deforestation. Trinity AgTech provides easy-to-use software to help land managers navigate their natural capital. And Armani announces a regenerative cotton living lab. Scott Millar is a customer success manager for Trinity AgTech. I asked him how the company and its software helps farmers.
We have a tool platform called Sandy, which is a natural capital navigator. So it looks at the carbon on farm, it looks at biodiversity and also water protection. So looking at sort of nitrogen use efficiency across both arable and grasslands. I suppose the main focus and the main reason that farmers come to us to start with is looking at carbon and looking at their carbon position. So we not only look at emissions on farm, so sort of livestock emissions, arable emissions, greenhouse emissions, so looking at all of the greenhouse gases there. We also look at sequestration. So we look at sequestration on permanent pasture. We look at sequestration on upland and lowland peat as well. So we look at the whole farm landscape. We don't just look at sort of data in isolation in terms of just emissions based. We take the whole farm. We look at all the natural capital assets, so woodland and hedgerows, and to kind of give a true picture of what's going on farm, rather than just, like I say, just looking at bits in isolation that suit different parties in supply chains and things like that.
If we just take a couple of those elements in particular, how is it that you measure the greenhouse gases? Which metrics do you use? And also soil carbon sequestration, I wonder how people measure that.
Yeah, so it's all it's modeled data. We can take primary data, so if farmers have got soil sampling data over a number of years, they can be added into the system, and then we sort of provide a hybrid approach and hybrid sort of results on that side. But it's all model data, so we're not asking farmers to go out and soil sample every field. It's taking sort of on-farm practices, so data that they would have at hand from sort of compliance reports anyway, in terms of inputs on farm or production data on a livestock system, and we run the models. So we use the latest IPCC 2019 tier 2 and tier 3 methodologies for our sort of calculations, but we also take all sorts of, say, AI and other sort of software data out there. So we look at things like weather, we look at soil type, and grazing information. So the whole sort of farm and the whole management that essentially makes a difference to sequestration and emissions factors.
And in terms of those emissions factors, I understand that you're sort of working with the standard metric GWP 100, but you've also got a sort of switch or a tool that allows people to see what they're doing in terms of GWP Style, which is the metric which accurately characterizes the behavior of methane.
Absolutely. So on the livestock reports, that we take the production data, as I say, we will run a carbon footprint, and then it's really down to the user how they want to display those results. And it's simply the click of a button, and the result will either show you at GWP 100 or it will convert it and show you the equivalent of GWP Star. So again, depending on who you're needing to report those factors to and what metric you want to look at, it's easy to just flip between them.
And just very briefly, in terms of how Sandy works, is it a mobile phone application or is it something that you work with on computer?
Yeah, so it's a cloud-based platform. So it's based on a web browser. There's no mobile phone app, but it's used on sort of desktop and iPads and tablets and things like that.
Now, there are lots of reasons why farmers might want to use this technology. I mean, some may need to report back to companies they're contracted to, but others might want to monetize the natural capital that they have on their farm. Does this technology help them to do that?
Absolutely. As I say, it will give a true picture of what's going on farm, and that can lead to many different avenues financially. Or, I mean, the first point is, I suppose, is really looking at efficiencies on farm. Most mitigation practices to reduce carbon footprint when it comes to emissions are intrinsically linked to inputs. So if you can be more efficient with your input from a farming and business point of view to start with, that's going to have an impact on your bottom line, as well as having a sort of happy knock-on effect in terms of reducing your emissions as well. If you then sort of get those sorted and you're in a good place and you want to sort of take that forward and look at trading, then we do have a sister company called Trinity Natural Capital Markets, and that's a marketplace. So we're not a brokerage. We don't buy carbon credits and sell them to whoever we want to. it gives the farmers the power and flexibility to sell credits that they're happy selling to companies that they want to sell to as well. So it's a two-way dialogue. They can sort of question the companies that are buying their credits in terms of their green credentials. And likewise, the buyers can build that relationship with the farmers to, understand what they're doing on farm to generate those carbon credits. And there's biodiversity co-benefits and all sorts of other things that really sort of help to drive the value and help get the most out of these natural capital assets.
Now, you're sponsoring the Royal Association of British Dairy Farmers Down to Earth Regenerative Agriculture event. Why is that important to you, important to Trinity AgTech?
Yeah, I think we sort of feel that the livestock sector has a lot to gain from, and also a lot to offer. The environmental side of things. We know that there's emissions sort of related to milk and beef production, lamb production. They can't be avoided. But what gets missed a lot of the time is the really great things that are going on in the landscape that wouldn't exist and wouldn't happen without those farms. So the sequestration of permanent pasture, the sequestration and biodiversity benefits of hedgerows and managed woodlands and all that sort of stuff. And that's what Trinity is about. It's making sure that farmers are rewarded and given a sort of good platform to be able to say to people, actually, this is the reality of what we're doing. And I think Down to Earth really sort of highlights that sort of need in the industry, and I think it's a really great show great shows and events to be part of. And I'm really looking forward to going and talking to people and seeing what's going on out there, because like I say, from the conversations we have, we know that farmers are doing great work out there in the countryside and with the environment. So it's only fair that they can highlight them and showcase them with robust science and everything else.
That was Scott Millar from Trinity AgTech. More about this and our other headline news on our website, 8.9.com. That's all for now. We're back on Friday. Thanks for watching.